Well, I said to you that I've never failed because I've never given a client what they asked for. We had a client contact me once, probably one of my famous ones, he contacted me. This was on a Sunday. In 2 days' time, on the Wednesday, he wanted to take his fiance, mother-in-law, the parent-in-law, and her best friend out for dinner in Florence, Italy. And I was actually in Italy at the time. I was working with the Vatican, doing an event over there. And I thought, well, okay, if I book up a table in Florence, how's that going to be exciting? So I wanted to see again, how far could I take it? You know, how far could I push it?
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What's up, Men of Abundance? I am Wally Carmichael, your founder and host of the Men of Abundance podcast, the Pay It Forward community, proving to you that you can, in fact, live an amazing life of abundance in family, faith, finances, and fitness on your way to having more. Today is a bonus episode because I wanted to bring this conversation to you as soon as possible. Ever since I first heard this guy's story, and I first heard him on a podcast, and I heard him on another podcast, then I had the opportunity to connect with him and have an amazing conversation, and I recorded that conversation for you to listen to here today. And I want to share this conversation because I absolutely know that many of you are in a place right now where you need to hear what we have to say today, and specifically what our featured guest has to say today. And others are going to want to hear this as well. So be abundant in your actions today. Pay it forward and share this episode with others in your circle. Just share it everywhere. As soon as you hear it, I'm telling you, you are going to feel compelled to share this because there's so much value in this conversation that you're getting for absolutely free. You are going to feel obligated to pay it forward and share with others. And if you just have a few minutes, I would love for you to add to the 83 already amazing 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes. You know, it's interesting when people have something bad to say, they'll just kind of poke at you a little bit and won't really reveal themselves or who they are. I appreciate when somebody gives me some critical feedback that I need to hear, and they identify who they are so we can have a conversation and I can get more out of it. That being said, few people who are excited about their service and the value that they're receiving from somebody, from a service, from a restaurant, from a podcast host, me, very few people actually reach out and say something. I would appreciate it if you just took a few minutes, go to iTunes, share your comments, and give the show a rating and review so that others can find Men of Abundance in the search engines. Besides that, I just want to hear from you and hear what you have to say about the show. Now, as I mentioned, today is a bonus episode. Other episodes will post on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which are also conversation type episodes. And then the Friday episode is Abundance and Prosperity Business Mastery, where I am sharing about 15 minutes, maybe 20, a business strategy that you can implement in your business that day. It's usually a business strategy, but sometimes it's also a life strategy. Either way, it's going to help you in your life and in your business. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to ensure that you get notified when each and every episode is posted to your favorite podcast player. So making the impossible possible and impactful is the gist of our conversation today. Men of Abundance are, if anything, impactful. But what exactly does that mean? And what does being impactful look like in your life and business? Well, you're about to find out. Through Bluefish, the internationally famous company, Steve makes once-in-a-lifetime events happen for the rich and famous. Today, he shares with us one of his most impactful stories, along with a few that cost up to $500,000. Steve is the modern-day Wizard of Oz and makes the impossible possible. With his help and expertise, his clients' fantasies and wildest dreams come true. Getting married by the Pope in the Vatican, being serenaded by Elton John, and connecting with powerful business moguls like Elon Musk are just a few of the many projects he's worked on. He rarely reveals how he accomplishes the feats that make his clients so happy, but he talks about some of his secrets with us today. And today, Steve shares some of his practical tips, techniques, and strategies with us. Now, I know you're going to want to get more of Steve, so I'm going to tell you right up front, you can get a hold of his book, Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, where he will help you break down any obstacle and turn your dreams into reality. You can find that book at Steve D. Sims, that's one M, stevedsims.com. Men of Abundance, it is my honor to introduce you to Steve Sims. Steve, welcome to Men of Abundance, brother. How you doing?
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the interest.
Excellent, man. Glad to hear that. Where are you at in the world?
I'm actually in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, so you're back home right now. I know you get around quite a bit. That's why I like to ask that question, because a lot of the guys I talk to, they travel around quite a bit.
I do travel a lot. It's just ridiculous. Over the years, I've kind of said to myself each year, usually around November, I say to myself, I'm not going to do as much traveling next year. And it doesn't stop. I'm the guy that is probably on a plane twice a month and always has an overnight bag freshly packed, ready to go. So it's just crazy. It's just weird.
Now, is that because of your speaking gigs, or does that have anything to do with your clients and vendors that you're working with?
It's both. Without realizing it, I developed another industry about a year and a half ago. So up until that time, it was a case of, hey, Steve, I need to discuss something with you. I'm in Portugal. Can you be here in 3 days? And it was that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my clients were flying me around the planet to, do the concierge and the wish fulfillment and the crazy stuff. And then the book came out, which I didn't really think was going to be a success. And it kind of was. And now I'm doing international speaking gigs. I've been this year alone, I've done Vegas. I don't know when your podcast is going out, but, we're like halfway through the year now. I've done 4 Vegases, Mexico, Marbella, Spain, and Phuket, Thailand, and a few in San Diego, a few in San Francisco. And that's just the speaking gigs. So speaking has been running around. My consultancy has been running around. I run my own private speakeasy events, which are kind of like crazy, quirky masterminds. Obviously the main business itself, which was Bluefish. So permanently on a plane somewhere.
Excellent, man. We're going to be talking much more about that here in just a minute. And by the way, before I forget, thanks for inviting me to the next speakeasy event. I don't know that I'm going to be able to make that particular one, only because I've already got some stuff obligated for that time frame. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. And guys, we'll fill you in on that here in just a minute. Before we get too much into our conversation here, Steve, I like to start out with an attitude of gratitude, man. What do you have to be grateful for today?
Waking up. I'm very much of a gratitude person. I wake up, I smell the roses, smell the air, be thankful that I can hug my kids. They're safe. They woke up well. So I'm thankful for every morning. I love the mornings. I'm not a late night guy. I'm an early morning. Thank the Lord that I'm able to enjoy it.
Yeah, I am too. I'm right there with you, man. It's rare that I'll be up late on my own. If I got company or something like that, or out doing something, I can be up late. But generally, if I'm just sitting at home throughout the regular day, 9, 10 o'clock, I'm in bed at the latest and up early.
Yeah, I like that.
Mornings. I love sunsets or sunrises because it's the beginning of a new day, and it's just beautiful.
Yep.
Absolutely love it. So, we talk a little bit about you. I shared some stuff with you professionally, what you've been up to. But here on Men of Abundance, we really like to get to know the man behind the abundance. So if you would, how would you describe yourself?
Pretty much of an idiot.
I get that so far.
Yeah, my wife calls me a 53-year-old 4-year-old. I'm the 4-year-old that goes, why can't we do that? Why can't we push that button? Why can't we get in there? And then just tries to find an angle. And I've never really grown up. And the fact that I get paid to be like that now, there's no point in me growing up. So I'm a very inquisitive little 4-year-old that just likes to open up doors I shouldn't and to walk into rooms that I'm not invited to. And so I'm a very inquisitive little 4-year-old. I'm not skillful. Skill set is probably in my top 10 things that I'm talented in. It's probably number 30. But I'm very much of a bull in a china shop. If I want something, I'm going for it. So, I think it was my buddy Jay Abraham said that I have a greater ICANN than I do an IQ. And that works for me.
No, it definitely works for you. And I love that attitude. I love that whole idea. And, quite frankly, if more people were like that, they would get more of what they wanted. Not all the time, every time, but they would certainly get more of what they wanted.
They'd get closer to it. All the people that sit on their ass going, "Oh, I can't do that." They're right. So even if you try and you fail, you've grown a few steps.
Yeah, exactly. And I've never liked personally the either or question. Well, you want to do this or do that? Well, why don't we do both and something else in between?
Yeah.
It's just the way I've always really enjoyed living my life as well. But I like the idea of not growing up because I don't feel that I've grown up. I just turned 50 in May. And honestly, Steve, I just don't feel like I've grown up at all.
No, there's no point. I don't see any benefit to it. So I'm going to avoid it.
Awesome, as long as we can, right? So another question I like to ask here on Men of Abundance is that kick in the gut moment because, somebody's looking at you. I know your background, but I want you to kind of dig into this a little bit and share with us a kick in the gut moment that really took you to your knees. And then we're going to get into what you learned from that.
Oh, God, so many. I believe I'm a serial failure. I failed, fallen over, and got smacked so many times. But the kick in the gut is probably a strange one because I've been broke, I've been on my knees, I've lost contracts, relationships, I lost houses, had cars repossessed. I've had all of that, but the kick in the gut is one of those things that you didn't see coming. And sometimes when you look back, you can go, well, hang on, there were telltale signs that I was doing that wrong. But one of the kick in the gut moment that also became one of my greatest growths was when my mum, I was a lad, and on the Saturday afternoons, we were living in London. We would get the train into London, into like the Bond Street, which is Bond Street is like the Fifth Avenue, Rodeo Drive. It's where all the posh shops are. And me and my mum would just hold hands and walk around. And I don't know how old I was, maybe 11 years old, something like that. And I'm walking around with her around the streets. And she stands on the side of the road and she looks, and I remember this vividly. She looks across the street and she's stationary and she's looking in the window of Gucci from across the street at a handbag. And she's kind of leaning forward, kind of look at it and all this kind of thing. So I do what an 11-year-old thinks that we're going to do, stood on the edge of the road. When there's no cars, I go to cross. And she grabs me back. And I said, I thought we were going into that shop. And she turned around and she said, we don't go in there. That's for other people. And then she turned around and walked off. And I remember looking behind, expecting to see the doors, with flames coming out of them or, knives on the floor or broken glass. I expected to see something that made her so terrified to walk in there. But she was clearly lined up that wasn't her world. She wanted to look at it enough that she would stand on the other side of the street and stare. And as I grew up, I remember thinking, I have no idea. I actually remember going back in there, and I've shopped in there. The store is still there. My wife's bought bags from there. My mum's no longer with us, but I try to take my mum there. I've taken my mother-in-law there. But I remember every time I see that shop, I remember realizing how terrified it made certain people, and one of those was my mum. That was a kick in the gut that stuck with me for many, many, many years.
Yeah, well, and obviously that's part of I believe that may be part of what makes you as bold as you are today. And
yeah,
you're not. It's like you're not welcome anywhere. Just walk in, like I've heard you say before. You just walk into rooms, just for no apparent reason, just to see what's going on.
Oh yeah, I've ended up in. I was in New York once. And we were in this club, and I saw a bunch of people walking in. Now, obviously, when you tell someone this, before you've even finished the story, they're like, well, why did you even think that was smart? But I remember seeing a bunch of people walking into a room at the back of this club, and I was already in the VIP section. And I'm like you, I don't like to stay out late at night. But it was an event, and I was at this event, and it had flowed over, and a bunch of us had gone there. And I saw this door being opened up by these two meatheads. And people walking in and out. And I thought to myself, what's in there? Obviously something's in there. I want to know what's in there. Mm-hmm. And I walked into a room, and it was like a scene out of The Sopranos or The Godfather. And I'd walked into this room, and they had a tiny little bar in there. And I just thought to myself, I can either look like an idiot and go, I shouldn't be in here. Or I just walked up to the bar and ordered a drink. And some guy came and sat next to me and he went, you shouldn't be in here. I said, I saw it. The inquisitive nature got to me. He said, well, you know what happened to the cat? And I'll be honest with you, there were some moments I was thinking, this is it. I'm not going to see my hotel room tonight. But I ended up having a whiskey with the guy and he went, you may want to finish that and leave. And I went, thank you very much. So there's been some rooms that I walked into that maybe I shouldn't have, but they've been very interesting. You know, I've walked into the, secret rooms of the Vatican, of the academia in Israel. You know, I've been in some in some incredible places because I can. And yes, there is the risk that one day you're going to walk into a room that you shouldn't. But isn't that half the fun of trying to find that room?
Yeah. I'll tell you that saying what you're saying, I was thinking about one of the scariest places that I've been. I've been to some scary places, but I was in Israel, in Eilat, Israel, and I'm on the beach, and we met these two. I was married at the time, so it's not like it was anything I was trying to advance towards, but I just met these two women on the beach that were obviously military because they're on the beach, they're carrying weapons, but they're in shorts and a T-shirt, and it's fatigues, right, style. So we start talking to them. They invite us to an underground bar, and this bar was literally underground. So here we are, some 82nd Airborne paratroopers in this bar, 2 or 3 of us, and we're in this bar with the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, everywhere. And we're like, and they're friends. They're not, no issues, but it's one of those situations where you're sitting there going, my goodness gracious, this is going to be a story to tell someday. And here I am telling that story. But that seems, it's kind of eerie to put yourself in those situations sometimes, but it's exhilarating.
I had the same thing. And funny enough, it was in the same place. I was in Tel Aviv about a year ago. And I met this couple that seemed just like a nice, normal couple. And they were walking down the front beachfront on Tel Aviv. And they said about this bar that they go to, and I turned up at this bar. I was on my own. I was over there doing some TV stuff, and I met up with them. We had a drink. They introduced me to their friend, who was a little bit more flamboyant. They left. I ended up staying with this guy. We ended up sitting down at a table, and as he leant forward, I noticed that he was holstering a pistol. And so he saw me clock it, and I turned around and I went, I don't see a lot of people can carry in California. Some of them have concealed, but I don't see it as open as that. So I kind of called the elephant in the room out to just let him know what I had noticed. And he turned around and he went, with this? And he went, yeah, I have. And he pulled it out and he's holding it in his hand. And he went, nah, this is the other. And he pulled one out of his ankle. And then there was about 5 other guys around. They're like, oh, that's bullshit. You want this one. And there was about 12 guns that they suddenly put on the table in front of us. It was like, no, this is the good one. And it looked like a scene out of I'm trying to think of some kind of comedic a spy movie where all these guys suddenly start throwing guns on the table.
Like Spies Are Us or something like that.
Yeah, it was something just ridiculous. And I just saw them all being thrown down there, and I just thought, oh my God, there must have been about 12 pistols just sitting on there from orifices I didn't know that they were pulling guns out of.
Yeah, different places around the world have different ideas. I was literally in a McDonald's in Israel, standing behind a guy with an AK-47 strapped across his back.
Yeah, you
waiting
see
to order
it
his Big
over
Mac,
there.
his quarter pounder.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. Tel Aviv's a beauty. But if anyone's over there going, where should we go on holiday? Shit, we won't go to Tel Aviv. You should go to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and the whole area is just beautiful. It's exploding. I don't want you getting scared by a couple of silly little stories from us, couple of old boys. But Tel Aviv is such a vibrant place. Like anywhere you travel to, always be careful. Because you can find a bad room in Koreatown, down here in LA or whatever, not picking on Koreatown, but there's dodgy rooms in every kind of planet. But Tel Aviv shouldn't be walked away from just because of our stories.
Agreed, absolutely. I've been to Old Town Jerusalem and the City of David and all that stuff. It's just a beautiful place to visit. It's a must, I believe. And so, brother, how did you get into what you're doing now? And tell us one of your just some of the craziest stories that you've been able to get people into.
So I'm an East London bricklayer. I was, left school at 15, straight on the construction firm. And I just realized it didn't fit. Like all entrepreneurs, we're unsettled, we're diseased. We realize when things don't work. And I realized it didn't work, and I had to find something else. So I started bouncing between jobs, trying to find out what would work, what would have me. Now, I left school at 15, so I was heavily uneducated. I class myself as an educated man now, but I believe school had zero to do with that. So I couldn't really get any kind of really good jobs. So I was bouncing between being a doorman, selling insurance, call centers, cake delivery man, cleaning crew for shopping malls. I was just bouncing. And I would go to work in the morning and go, don't like this. At 10 o'clock in the morning, I would quit. So my mum was thinking I couldn't hold a job down. And internally, I was trying to find where I could fit, where I could put my energy, where I could stick my passion. And because I couldn't find it, I was bouncing between jobs. My mum, therefore, thought that I had ADD and all the usual things that now we recognize as an entrepreneur. But me and you both come from a period when an entrepreneur was slightly, it was an insult. Mm-hmm. If you turned around to someone in the 80s and go, what do you do? Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. They thought you sold stolen cars out of, some back alley in London. And it's like if you spoke to someone in the 80s in East London, you called them a hustler, more than likely you're going to get your face smacked in. Right. Okay? Because if I called you a hustler, there's connotations of con man, rude, angling. Now, hustler, we tell our kids, hustle, learn to get up there, learn to get some mutzvah, go get, all that kind of stuff. It's changed. I had a friend of mine in a banking job, and he was being transferred over to Hong Kong with a massive, great bunch of people because they were doing this stockbroking world was moving into Asia. It's called the Tiger Market in the late 80s, early 90s. I BS'd my way into being transferred over there with a resume that was greater fiction than any Harry Potter novel. I lasted 1 day in Hong Kong as a trainee stockbroker before they realized I was a moron. And then I ended up working on the door of a nightclub. And the door of the nightclub actually gave me something which I hadn't recognized before. It gave me a viewpoint. It gave me a patio to be able to stare at people. And it's funny, if you walk to a nightclub, you will get those people that walk towards the door and they will self-select. Do I walk to the doorman and walk into the club, or do I select that I go and stand in line? They will self-select where they are supposed to be. Now, me, I was always the guy that'd walk up to the front door and I'd go, hey, how are you? And, maybe you got to slip them $50 or something like that. 9 times out of 10, it was the confidence. And I had some meatheads that would turn around to me and they go, there's a line over there. And I'd be like, yeah, so it is. Thank you. Anyway, how's your night going? I'll take a table for 2, please. And they'd be like, come on in, sir. And it was just that kind of bravado that I had that from the doorman, and now I was the meathead, I saw people self-selecting where they stood in life. And I saw affluent people that were very humble. You'd get people that would pull up in a Ferrari just so everyone saw them in the Ferrari, and you'd get other people that would just walk up and just be really cool, but you could see they had the money. And so I used the doorman as a position to be able to build up friendships with these repeat customers that were affluent. And from there, I started building up value with them in a relationship by recommending the best clubs, the best restaurants, different places. They would say to me, hey, can you get into this party? I'd make it happen. So I built up all of this value by trying to get people into things that they weren't originally invited into. And it went from getting people into nightclubs to getting people married in the Vatican by the Pope over like a 20-year history. As I say, it started off as nightclubs in Hong Kong, but in my 20-plus years, I've been the official partner of everything from the Grammys to Kentucky Derby, New York Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, Ferrari Cavallino Classic, Monaco Formula One. Probably my longest standing relationship has been with Sir Elton John for his Oscar party. So I just get people into the most amazing things they could. And then I get people to come to me and they go, hey, I want to meet so-and-so, or I want to do XYZ. And I've always maintained I've never given a client what they asked for. I give them what they wanted, lusted, and desired for. Okay, and there's a big difference. And you wanted me to end this on a story, correct? You still want me to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you this question before you do that, because I definitely want that.
Okay.
How old were you when you started this?
Started the business, the concierge business.
Well, in the nightclub, and started making these
the nightclub.
connections.
It was my early 20s. My early 20s, I left England because I realized England never had anything for me. So I wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and go as far away as I could. So when I heard my guy was going to Hong Kong, I was like, how do I get there? I didn't even know where Hong Kong was. But I just wanted to get as far away, because they say you are the combination of the 5 people you hang out with.
Of course.
Well, my 4 best buddies were basically broke-ass British bikers, right? So I needed to find some rich kids that I could be friends with. So by default, I would become that rich kid. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get as far away from my pattern as I possibly could. And when I heard the chance of Hong Kong, I leapt at it. As I said, us as entrepreneurs, we don't settle. And that was my jump off the cliff and build a parachute on the way down kind of thing. And I obviously failed because I got into Hong Kong and I lost my job after one day. So then I started working on the door and started going, okay, I'm here now. And I had 2 choices. I had a return ticket because the company that brought me over there gave me a return ticket, open-ended return ticket. I had the chance of getting back on there and going back into my pattern. Reverse is never a good thing, okay? So I thought, can't do that yet. Not ready to throw the towel in. I saw that as a great rejection, a great acknowledgement of my failure by going backwards. So I tried to do different things in Hong Kong, and I found this front line, and I used it as a kind of, okay, how do I grow my education? How do I grow my circle? I'm in an environment now where if I fail, it's understood. You know, you finish school at 15, you're a bricklayer. You know, we didn't think you'd survive, Steve. I can get away with that. But if I'm successful, I've only got myself to be thankful for that. Myself to turn around and look in the mirror and go, Sims, you made this, you know? Yeah. And so I went for door number 2. I thought to myself, I'm going to see how good I am and what's actually in me. And that was it. I ended up staying.
Man, so much to learn from that experience, man. Thanks for sharing that. Let's hear the story.
Well, I said to you that I've never failed because I've never given a client what they asked for. We had a client contact me once, probably one of my famous ones, he contacted me. This was on a Sunday. In 2 days' time, on the Wednesday, he wanted to take his fiancée, mother-in-law, the parent-in-law, and her best friend out for dinner in Florence, Italy. And I was actually in Italy at the time. I was working with the Vatican, doing an event over there. And I thought, well, okay, if I book up a table in Florence, how's that going to be exciting? So I wanted to see, again, how far could I take it? You know, how far could I push it? Now, this was only a few years ago, so my Rolodex is pretty good. In the old days, I would have to take 12, 15, maybe 20 phone calls and 20 relationships to get to the person I wanted to talk to. Luckily now, I'm like one phone call away from someone that I need. So I reached out. We spoke to some people that were very powerfully connected with the Accademia di Galleria, which is the museum in Florence that houses Michelangelo's David. This is a museum, okay? I have to stress that. A museum with plaques on the front door saying no food or drink inside this museum. So on the Wednesday night, I had a table of 6 with candelabras, all these candles on it, at the feet of Michelangelo's David, a string quartet, and they actually ate pasta at the feet of David, the most iconic statue in the world, in a museum that was closed down just for them. And halfway through pasta, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade them. That was me seeing how far I could go with the ultimate Italian meal. Location and music, that's what I put together.
And people. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable, man. I love that. One of the stories that first caught my attention, because I was fortunate enough to see the original Journey in concert just prior to them breaking up.
Yep.
And just iconic in our world anyway.
Yeah.
And then tell us a story about how that whole process came about in that story.
Yeah, same thing. We had a client that actually got referred to me through Richard Branson. And his whole thing was that he wanted to meet the rock band Journey. So, I spoke to him and I said, why do you want to do that? And I quiz people. I really question them because I want to get down into the soul. I want to get into that switch that needs to be flicked that I can look at. So I said to him, why do you want to do this? And he was like, well, the rock band's been very symbolic in my life. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. So I'm investigating down and down. And he turns around and he said, all the way through my life, the ups and downs, like everybody's life, Journey's music has been like a theme tune to that chapter. I'm now pretty comfortable. I want this to just be the finale. I'm not dying, but I want this to be the end of this kind of movie. I would like to go to Journey, shake their hands and say, thank you for giving me the soundtrack to my life. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, okay, so you're telling me going backstage after they've just performed for 2 hours in front of 20,000 people, they're all hot and sweaty, shaking your hand, saying hello, getting a selfie, they'll forget your name by the time they've got into the changing room. That's going to be it? That's going to be your crescendo? You're going to be satisfied with that? And, of course, the guy was like, I said, look, let me see what I can do. So what I did was I actually got him to sing live on stage 4 tunes, and he is quoted now as the shortest-term lead singer of the rock band Journey. He did this in what was at the time called the Cricket Amphitheater in San Diego with the full band, the fireworks, the pyrotechnics, the smoke and laser machines. He was the lead singer of the rock band. And it was pretty cool to sit there in the audience watching my client up there performing 4 tunes.
That is... Man, I got chills just thinking about it. The emotions involved in that are just absolutely amazing. And that's what you do. You, more than concierge, you bring smiles to people. You just heighten their emotions. Now, a lot of people that listen to this show, a lot of them are entrepreneurs and business owners. And a lot of them want these kind of experiences. Either they want to create them for themselves or they want to create them for family members or even their clients for that matter. How important is it to create something that big, and doesn't have to be that big in order to make a huge impact?
Oh, far from it. Look, we just tell those stories because, let's be honest, they're freaking amazing. They're like Make-A-Wish for people with really big checkbooks. But what you're looking to do, whether it be in business, a relationship, within your family, is you're looking to establish a trigger. That should be your focus, the trigger. Now, imagine you're driving down the road and music comes on from when you were a kid. Maybe when you had your first breakup from your first girlfriend or boyfriend, and a tune comes on, you're transported straight back to when you were kind of like wearing silly haircuts and, cargo pants or what. You're transported straight away, aren't you? Because it's created a trigger in your subconscious. And there'll be a little smile. Maybe there'll be the remembrance of maybe your first kiss because it's a slow tune or whatever. Those are triggers. And what you've got to do is create a trigger. And here's a silly one, okay? If I go to a baseball game, we went to a baseball game a while ago. We landed in America, and I was like, I've got to go to a baseball game. And I invited some friends over for a baseball game. Now, I could have sent them the tickets. Fine, open up an envelope, there's 2 tickets, I hope to see you at the baseball game. But what I did was I actually wrapped them around a baseball that I had got signed. Now, if you contact any kind of baseball stadium, they've got all of these baseballs that are just signed. You can go, hey, I just need to... They may be signed by the bench warmers, maybe even by the water boys. It doesn't matter. You can even sign the damn thing yourself, okay? Mm-hmm. But wrap the tickets around a baseball, put the baseball in a little square box, wrap it up with like congratulations paper, and then give them that. Okay? Now, it's cost you maybe $50 more than the price of the tickets, but they remember the ball. Okay, they remember opening the package. They remember the feeling of ripping open the package. You've created this trigger. They think of baseball and they get a couple of tickets, or now where the companies actually email you the tickets and you have to print them off or you get a barcode. But they remember Sims sent them tickets around a baseball. Okay, It's very, very cheap stuff. If you're going out with your partner and you want to create a date, or you've cooked that night, try and make up a smooth tape of, they don't do tapes anymore, do they? But try and do a playlist of some of your favorite tunes of when you met each other for the first time. You sat there in your home now and a bit of Alexander O'Neill's coming on, or the Commodores or something like that. It's a trigger. So you've got to focus on the trigger. What can I do that I'm going to do in any case that I can create something for you to go, oh, I remember. Oh, wow. Something like that. I will give you the perfect trigger story. Okay? You ready for this?
Absolutely.
All right. A client of mine, every year for their anniversary, would contact me and say, hey, we need to make the anniversary brilliant. Here you go, Steve. Knock yourself out. We've done things, and they were Chicago-based. We've flown them into Paris for dinner for one night and then flown them back. We've had them sipping champagne literally on a mound of diamonds. We've had them backstage at concerts. We've had them on walk-on rolls on Broadway shows. Everything. It's ranged from like $75,000 to I think it was just over $500,000 was the most expensive for one night. Now, it got to one of his anniversaries, and I can't remember which one this was. I don't know if it was his 20th. It was either the 15th, 20th, or 25th. It was one of the fives, okay? Mm-hmm. And he said, it's anniversary time. It's quite a big one. I think it was 20th. Yeah, pretty sure it was 20th. He's like, so it's a big one, we got to do something, elaborate. It's got to be fantastical. It's got to blow our mind. It's got to be impactful. Now, it was that last word that he had never, ever used. Now, over the years, he had stopped suggesting things because my ideas and my dreams were better than what he could come up with. So that was the only thing. But he had never used the word impactful. And that, if he hadn't have used that word, we'd have tried to have done something that was over the top, spend the night in the White House or, slept the night in a pyramid, something like that, okay? That was just like, oh, my God, I can't believe you did that. But it was that word impactful that stopped me. So I said to him, okay, tell me about her. So, we'd done loads of things before, and I knew who she was, okay? But I wanted to hear it from the man that was closest to her. So he started telling me about her and, this and that. And I remember the first time we met and blah, blah, blah. And he starts going on and going on and going on and going on. And he told me the story of how when he tried to date her at college, she wasn't up for it at all. She was not having it. So he one day borrowed his mum's picnic rug out the back of the car, got a hamper full of cheap-ass sandwiches and a bottle of cheap champagne from the local gas station. And he had this boombox that had like his kind of like, sexy love tape thing on there with all of his favorite tunes. And when she came out of her class, he popped the cork, hit the tape deck and went, care to join me? Now, this was in front of everyone on the campus. Real cheesy move, a Hail Mary if there was one. And she went and sat next to him and listened to the tunes while everyone's walking past them in the campus yard. Apparently they got told off for having alcohol on the yard, and all this kind of thing. But it was so cheesy, they let him get away with it. But that was the first time that she realized there was something different about this guy and that he was committed. So every year she's been, sent off in jets, on yachts, all these different things. So this year we picked her up, sent her off to have, I think it was her hair done or her nails or something like that in the car. Okay. So she knows his anniversary day. She knows something amazing is going to happen. Okay. Around the corner at one of the public parks, we had been through all the pictures with his help of his youth to find out what the picnic rug looked like. Okay. What the cassette deck looked like, what the hamper looked like. And from probably about 400 pictures, we found some of them in a hamper, some of them had this, some of them had a cassette deck, but he was like, oh, no, that's a double cassette deck. My other one was a single cassette deck. So we went down to try and hone in on what that was. So we actually replicated the rug. It was a tartan, like a Scottish tartan rug. We found the cassette deck, which Run DMC would have been proud of. And we got the hamper. The sandwiches were a bit nicer than normal. You're not allowed alcohol in a public park, so this was alcohol-free champagne. And we set it all up in the park. She turns up in the car. He opens up, the driver jumps out, opens up the door. She's wondering, what the bloody hell am I doing in a park? He's a little bit in the distance, just under a tree. He hits the tape deck, okay, and Alexander O'Neill comes on. And he's got a glass of champagne in his hand, and he said, "Hey, care to join me?" She literally, and I have trouble speaking about this, because I was there. I was actually, because we had a lot of people around him just to make sure no one could come close to him. Because in the public park, you're not allowed to corner it off. Mm-hmm. But we had people post. We had pretty girls walking dogs so people couldn't cross into this area. She literally took one step out of that car and fell down on her knees crying. She was so blown away from him remembering every detail of the first time that it met. And also how it was so important to him that it be replicated on that day. She lost it. Now, I remember the driver, he's got one hand on the door. His passenger's now on her knees. I remember him just kind of like looking like dumbfounded. What the hell do I do here? So he helps her up a bit and tries to escort her over. The guy gets up to bring her over. She cried all the way. I guarantee you she couldn't see where she was walking until she got in the picnic rug. I'm by the side of the tree and I'm tearing up. The emotion of the recreation of all of those triggers. Now, here's the thing. When I do something with the Vatican or with the Titanic or with Elon Musk, I'm $500,000, 750, $1.5 million. This thing cost me $1,700 to recreate. Mm-hmm. Easily, by far the cheapest thing they've ever done. Still, even though we've done about 5 trips since for them, that's the one that always comes up in the cocktail reception. That was the one that was the most impactful. And the reason it cost $1,700 was because we had to buy 3 bloody boom boxes because 2 of them didn't work. And when we finally did get one that worked, we had no way of recording any music onto the tape. Because for one, you can't buy tapes now unless you order them. And there's no bloody HDMI sockets going into a 1980s Run DMC cassette deck. We had to send the cassette off to a studio to have the list of music we needed actually put onto this tape. So that thing could have easily been a $600 thing, including the boombox that we got off of eBay. So I would say that's a good demonstration of impact over price tag.
Man, Steve, that's seriously impacted me, man. I was holding back tears just thinking about it.
Yeah, I still cry every time I talk about it.
Yeah, goodness, I get emotional at Hallmark commercials, so but that's an impactful one. And guys, listen, it doesn't take that much. You've heard some of my stories that I've done for my wife. Guys, get creative. Think about stuff like this to make an impact in your relationships, in your business relationships, in your personal relationships with your kids. This is the stuff that people remember about you. It's not the stuff, it's the experiences, and when you get the emotions involved. Steve, thanks for sharing that, man. That is huge. That is beautiful.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
So, brother, we are at the point where we're going to pay it forward to our abundant leaders. You ready to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Excellent. So share 1 to 3 actionable steps that men of abundance can take today.
Well, the first one's got to create an emotion. Don't do anything because it needs to be done. Ask yourself the one question, how can I add a smile to the action that I'm going to do? Even if you're buying someone a coffee, buy a coffee and then just maybe do a thank you, or, do something, buy a cookie or buy someone a coffee. When you're buying a coffee, maybe pay for the coffee behind you or something like that, just to express to the other person that, hey, we should all share. Do something that creates an emotion. And you say about paying it forward, do something that creates a smile and an emotion and a trigger with whatever action you're normally going to do. That's the first one. Mm-hmm. 2, ask yourself, do you keep your word? Now, it's a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I'll get that to you by Monday, and then they roll in on Tuesday. Don't let that slide. Don't let that slide. If you tell someone you're going to do something on Monday, make sure it's done at the latest Sunday night, okay? But focus on it. Hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone else. Okay? Do not settle, because that's a sliding curve that you don't want to be on. Number 3, fail. Fail often, fail frequent, and be proud to fail. We want to get to a situation where if you're not failing, you're not trying. Now, I'm not saying go to Vegas and gamble your pink slip on black. I'm saying look at what you're doing today and try to do something you've not done before. Me, personally, whenever I go out to a restaurant, I try to have an appetizer that sounds the freakiest thing in the planet. And when you're in places like Japan and Israel and stuff like that, there's some freaky stuff that can end up on your plate. Mm-hmm. But try something you never normally would have tried, because unless you've tried it and then discovered you've hated it, now you can talk about that from a position of experience, okay? But it's all these people that go, oh, I hate that. Have you tried it? No. Well, then stop talking. So try something. Stretch yourself. The people that you are around will actually get caught up in your drag and come with you. So the more that you stretch, the more you try new things, the more you're open to expanding your horizons, your ideas, your perspectives, your principles, your cause, these people will follow with you, and you'll be raising your whole family up at the same time. I think that's my 3.
Yeah, absolutely love it, man. What rituals make the biggest impact in your life, Steve?
I try not to do rituals because I get scared that if I miss them out, something's going to happen. I'm not a superstitious guy, but I think the first part of superstition is by admitting you have a ritual. So I get up, I drink my coffee, I put the dogs out, and as I said to you earlier, I smile at the sky and I breathe the air in, and I'm thankful. So my ritual is just to be grateful of every morning I wake up.
Love it. Absolutely love it. What are you reading or listening to that you would recommend to our abundant leaders, and why?
Well, I would obviously say Bluefish in the Art of Making Things Happen by the enormously handsome Steve Sims.
Sounds like a good guy.
Bit of a funny one. What do I read? I read a lot of different things. I find that business books actually pay me off because I sit there going, oh, my God, I wish I did. I get very angry. And as Joe Polish said, it's aggravated oysters that make pearls. So I can be reading a Ryan Holiday. I can be reading Joe Polish is actually doing a book now. I can be reading a Tim Ferriss, a Lewis House. I can be reading one of these things, and then I get very annoyed. You know, Jay Abraham's always a great book to read, any of his. But then I start impacting them. So what I do try to read more now are ones that lose me. So I like the Dragon Tattoo movies. I like the Dan Brown books. I like to kind of get lost in a fantasy, because I think what's actually we're losing now is our ability to dream. So I think you should read books that make you fantasize and dream, because it's our ability to dream and create that differs us from Amazon and AI and Siri, because none of those things can dream. Okay. So I try to read things that allow me to dream. I do listen to podcasts, and I have a wide range of podcasts from the Grant Cardones to the Ty Lopez to the Lewis Howes to the Jim Quicks to the Aubrey Marcus. I love listening to a whole range of different podcasts, even if I don't agree with them. I want to know how you got to that perspective. How did you get to that moral? How did you get to that soapbox that you think that's the only answer? I want to know that. And I want to uncover what that trigger is that makes them so strong in that belief.
Exactly. That's my curiosity. That's one of the reasons why I listen to and read so many different things. I watch the political debates only because I'm curious as to how they get to the thought processes that they do, not to get into a political debate with anybody.
Yeah.
What do you feel holds most people back from living a life of true abundance?
Well, 2 things: themselves, and secondly, the fear of other people. Most people aren't scared of failing. Most people are scared of people seeing them fail. And if you look at all of the really successful people, they couldn't give a shit. Now, I actually was in SpaceX with Elon Musk about a year ago, and he actually turned around and he said to me, they'll applaud at you. They will laugh at you before they applaud. Now you've got a guy here that was making rockets. He never went to rocket school. I don't even know if there is a rocket school, but he wasn't that guy. But he just looked at something and went, hey, hang on, why can't we do this? And if you remember, it wasn't long ago that NASA was laughing at the guy. NASA was actually...
His best friend. Some of his closest friends were laughing at him.
Oh, he was damn near bankrupt so many times because he took all the money out of PayPal, stuck some of it in Solar City, some of it in Tesla, and then borrowed money to put in a SpaceX. The guy gambled everything he owned on 3 horses that he owned. And everyone was like, you're an idiot. You're going to go down. Blah, blah, blah. Now look at the guy. He does not give a shit. And he just keeps going. I'm a great fan of serial failures. So I believe that we should stop worrying about anybody else. You know, we're on this planet fleetingly, you know, for a short period of time. I do not care for your approval. I care for my standards. I care for what I do. I care for my substance. And if I've got to scrape a knee every now and then to get further where I need to be, hey, that's the education. That's the cost of education.
Absolutely. Absolutely love it, man. Thanks for sharing that. And I 100% agree with that. What does being a man of abundance mean to you, Steve?
Recognizing it. A lot of people talk about riches. I talk about wealth, and wealth is knowing that my family are protected, my mortgage is paid, I've got gas in the tank in the bike, and I've got whiskey in the cupboard. I want to make sure that wealth is something that you recognize and you're grateful of. It can go. It could disappear. Things can happen, especially in a litigious society like America. People can sue you because they don't like the color of your earbuds. You know, it's a ridiculous system that we're in, but things can fall. But you've got to know that wealth also includes what you stand for, your word, your credibility, and the man you are.
Listen, we are going to have your book linked up in the show notes. What did we not talk about today that you want to ensure that our abundant leaders get out of our conversation?
Well, we've actually had a good little chat here. We're nearly under an hour here, so we've had a good little cover. And I don't want to saturate, because when you saturate, certain things can like slip through the net. I've got a website, stevedsims.com. There's only one M in Sims, so stevedsims.com. If you sign up there for the newsletters, you'll actually get a complimentary PDF of the cheat sheet from the book Bluefish in, so you can check that out first before you get the book. There's also a video on there called the Chug Test that you will get. You'll get this autoresponder email that has that on there. Chug Test is how I try to live my life. That could resonate with a bunch of you guys out there. I'm on all the Instagrams, Twitters, Facebooks under Steve D. Sims. I've got a Facebook group called Steve D. Sims where, quite simply, if it annoys me, I'm going to tell you about it. If it excites me, I'm going to tell you about it. If it helps me, I'm going to tell you about it. So I have a decent community just growing there. And that's basically how you can get hold of me. What haven't we spoken about? Probably mountains. We could probably do a podcast for the next 13 years and still not get everything out. But I think we've covered a good broad step. And I'm very proud that you've actually tuned it more towards the impact over the price tag. You know, I do some podcasts and they're all kind of like, what's the most expensive thing you've done? You focused on the impact, the trigger. And I'm very proud that we actually use that as a topic for this podcast.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. One thing I do want to ask you about specifically is your speakeasy events. Can you briefly share with the listeners what that is,
Sure.
what the impact is on that?
Sure. So I've spoken at, hundreds of stages literally all over the world. And I've also gone to many, many events over the world, in the thousands. And I noticed that a lot of events promote themselves by going, hey, we've got Gary Vaynerchuk, we've got Tony Robbins, we've got Darren Hardy, we got all the, and you look at the lineup and you go, well, I like him, not sure about these people. And you buy tickets for these people. And then the other ones you hope are going to be good. They may resonate with you. They may not. It was too much of a turkey shoot. It was also seducing the wrong people for the wrong reason. So I actually decided to reverse engineer an event. So what I did is I started running these speakeasy events. We've done them in San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, New York, all over the place. One's coming up in about a week's time in Reno, and the next one's in Silicon Valley. There are a maximum of 40 people, and now $2,000 per person to come along. And literally all we do is we go, hey, speakeasy Silicon Valley, 14th and 15th of November, I'm in. And they click the button and they pay their $2,000. They don't know who's going to be there. They don't know any of the topics up for discussion. They don't even know the location of the event. But here's what happens. When they join in, we then contact them and we go, hey, thanks for joining up. We're proud that you're coming over to the next speakeasy event. What's your problem? And we want to know what that problem is. What's holding them up? What's your next hurdle? What's your next achievement? What's your next goal? And then what we do is we take all of the people that have signed up, and again, maximum of 40 people, and we find out, is there any correlation between them? And if you get 10 people together and ask them what their problems are, you'll usually find out that 4 of them are sharing the same problem. And so then what we do is I go into my Rolodex and I bring someone in to literally speak to you how to overcome that problem. So this is not a speaking event where we all stand on stage and go, hey, we're brilliant and you're not. It's a workshop where we get together, we expose the problem, and then I get absolute captains of industry, experts, celebrities in to answer these problems. And we've had, the man behind We Are the World. We've had the leading the creative director for Victoria's Secrets, the founder of Ugg Boots. We've had, Jay Abraham. We've had an immense amount of people coming in answering these problems, but you don't know they're coming. But someone's going to come along and answer your problems. And I guarantee you, this is my guarantee, you're going to be in a room that you would never normally be in. You're going to be with 40 people that you would normally never have the chance to chat with, chatting with market and experts from the industry that are solving your problem that you would never normally be able to stand and have coffee with. That's my commitment to you. So the Speakeasy is a reverse engineered mastermind / workshop / life-changing experience.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, man. And I'm glad I didn't forget to ask that question because I knew what it was. I wanted to make sure you shared that because, guys, listen, you all have your individual problems, and I'm telling you that will be the best investment you've made in your career, probably in the decade and in your life. Absolutely love it, Steve. Thanks for sharing that, brother. Thanks for the conversation. I dig it. I knew it would be an amazing conversation. Go out, live your life of abundance. And, brother, keep paying it forward. You're making a huge, huge impact on people. You made an impact on me today for sure.
I appreciate it. Cheers, bud.
All right, guys, your action steps today are 1, make sure you get a hold of Steve's book, Bluefishing. And whether you get a hold of the book or not, be bold, be abundant. Take action on the things that you know you need to be doing and the things that you want to do. I mean, seriously, guys, you only have one life. Why would you spend it doing things you don't enjoy doing? I'm not saying that everything has to be happy Nirvana and Barney and all this kind of stuff all the time. But why run around miserable? And why leave this life unfulfilled, having not done the things that you want to do? It's not that difficult, guys. We just proved that in this conversation. Reach out to somebody who can assist you wherever you need assistance. I implore you, don't try to do it alone. Figure out who can help you and what it is that you're trying to do. Even if it's something like grabbing a book like Bluefishing, grabbing my book, The No BS Business Breakthrough, getting into my next Business Breakthrough group session, which, by the way, you can get more information at menofabundance.com/group. But regardless of what it is, guys, I want you to leave this earthly life fully fulfilled. And I'll do whatever I can here to help you get there. Now, go out and live your life of abundance and make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.